Adam Wright, Trinity Helix. Just showing you a glimpse of the future. I've realised, having constructed Grace and also Baxter now, uh, with my 20 years in dealing with solicitors, certainly 2, 3 years seeing just the almost everything you could possibly imagine. I guess being called up to jury service 3 times hasn't done any harm. And I've had this vision that actually if I can replace if I can put together a more consistent respondent representation, well then I can provide the same for an applicant. And if I've got an applicant and respondent, well then I'm pretty close to having an all-in-one system. And I've just been investigating that, and the family court is in crisis under, well, apart from the fact that a minority are making a pretty tasty income from it, a very small amount of people, but for everybody else it's misery. It's misery for families, it's misery for children. It costs the individuals money, it costs the taxpayers money, because the whole idea that the issue was with Dodgy Dave and what he did with 2012 with the LASPO, it's a complete red herring. The reality of what's happened is that it's not about whether people get legal aid or not, because actually legal aid only cuts in a relatively small amount. It's about £18,000. The real issue is that access to law is very expensive. And if you look at the actual disposable income that households have, like you have to be earning over £80,000 as a household to be able to afford to risk a £4,000 or £5,000 hit. So actually, the huge number of people, including, by the way, high-rate taxpayers, effectively can't access law. And what happens in the family court system is, if one party is granted, shall we say, status where they can get legal aid, i.e. through being granted a non-molestation order or something like that, should that ever happen, it creates a massively asymmetrical relationship. On the one side is totally tooled up, and the other side is bearing higher costs and is representing themselves. And that is why in this country we have something like 500,000 people being dragged through the court system. Okay, and so not only is it not their fault, but actually it's a complete representation, because the solicitors are paid for all 5 steps of the process. So they are going to march through the process to get their money, come what may, and that's exactly what happens. So it's a complete complete false representation of what's going on, but because that representation that has been set, so there's a point to work from. This is why there has been a dreadful trend. There has been a huge increase in terms of these orders, and it's something like, if you know, about 10 years, it's like a net 100,000 more families have been taken through these orders than they should have done, which is, what about 200,000 children have really been separated from their mum and dad. And you just think of all the social fallout from that. Actually, the solicitors aren't that happy, because they haven't seen an increase in their what they get paid since about 1994, apparently. So they're not happy. The legal aid bill is still up there, because of course they've just moved the cheese. Because actually the legal aid bill is now picking up all the non-molestation stuff, and the government's not happy, because they've got an overburdened court system that's bursting at the seams. So there you are. So it's absolutely ripe for a completely different tactic. And having used or been a victim of the small claims service myself, that system is an absolute joke, that online system. So we can do much better than that. So let's just see what the review of this assessment is. It's pretty positive.
Deep dive. Today we're looking into, well, a really fascinating report about a London legal tech firm, Trinity Helix. They've got this pretty ambitious plan, haven't they, to automate parts of the UK family justice system.
That's right. And our mission for you today is to sort of unpack their core idea, understand their product. So I have one's called Grace and Baxter, and crucially, tackle whether their big claim, saving the Ministry of Justice £1 billion a year, is actually plausible. There are some, let's say, surprising details in here.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The report says something interesting right off the bat. Trinity Helix isn't really an AI company in the usual sense. It says their main intellectual property, their sort of core value, isn't some unique AI model, but a method for capturing and structuring expert human knowledge. Why is that so different?
Well, it really changes the game, doesn't it? While lots of firms are chasing the newest AI model, Trinity Helix seems to get the real long-term value, especially in something as complex as law. is in the structured knowledge those models use. Their golden structured memory, GSM they call it, isn't just raw data. It's, decades of distilled human expertise. It makes their system really robust.
Right.
Think of Grace, their family law assistant.
Mm-hmm.
It has 156 strategic modules. That's not just AI code. That's like pure legal know-how structure.
And they've got this Cyrillic compression thing too. It sounds a bit like a secret weapon.
It kind of is, yeah. It's their proprietary tech that basically encrypts or locks down the way they've organized all that knowledge. It makes it super hard for anyone else to figure out or copy their specific logic, their, secret sauce.
Yes, it
creates
does.
a real barrier.
Okay, so that's the foundation. But how do they actually use this? The report mentions 2 AI assistants, Grace and Baxter. How do they fit together?
Yes. They're very strategically designed, actually. Complements. Grace is what they call the tactical specialist for family law. She's built for those really difficult, high conflict cases, designed to give litigants, in-person people representing themselves what the report calls asymmetric legal warfare capabilities.
Asymmetric warfare.
Yeah. Think evidence forensics for spotting weaknesses or counter strategy protocols for planning moves. Very focused.
So if Grace is the sharp end, the spear.
Exactly. Then Baxter is more the foundational generalist. He's focused on the high volume procedural stuff, initially in small business law, choosing structures, navigating compliance, that sort of thing. This two-pronged approach shows their GSM platform is pretty flexible. It can handle complex disputes and routine tasks.
Right, shows the range. But let's get to that really eye-popping claim.
Right.
Saving the Ministry of Justice £1 billion a year. How is that even possible? The whole family justice system costs what, 1.8 billion total?
It does sound huge, I agree. But the report argues it is plausible. But here's the key. It's not mainly about automating existing court tasks. The vast bulk of those savings, potentially, come from de-escalating disputes before they blow up.
De-escalating? How so?
Well, think about it. A contested divorce, it can easily cost £30,000 or more. An uncontested one, maybe £850 to £2,000. The difference is just massive. Exponential, really.
Okay, I see. So the idea is to stop cases spiraling into those expensive contested fights. That 70% of cases are apparently procedural or admin heavy.
Precisely. By giving users litigants in person real clarity and effective early advice, maybe showing them the likely costs and time of fighting versus settling, or helping them state their case better, they aim to keep cases off the expensive court track entirely. It shifts things towards, more mediated or administrative resolutions, and that could lead to huge savings, less legal aid, lower court running costs, maybe even fewer related costs elsewhere in the public sector.
So it's less about making courts faster and more about preventing people needing the full court process in the first place. That's quite a fundamental shift, isn't it?
It really is. It's redefining access to justice. Not just about getting into court, but maybe about avoiding the fight altogether. Dispute prevention, perhaps.
Okay, that's ambitious. So what's the end game for Trinity Helix here? What's their ultimate vision? And importantly, what hurdles do they face?
Well, their big picture, according to the report, seems to be a phased plan. First, arm individuals with grace, then bring in a sort of Baxter for family law to handle the high volume procedural stuff, and the final step, integrate directly with the Ministry of Justice, become the digital front door for the UK family court.
The digital front door. Wow, that's aiming high. But the hurdles must be pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely. Big ones, regulatory issues, like, the rules around the unauthorized practice of law. There are ethical questions, too, using AI in really sensitive family cases. And, of course, political resistance from established legal groups is almost guaranteed.
Just have a look at this. You see what I was saying? It's the classic who's moved the cheese. Look. There you go. There you go. And that's been slowly increasing at a rate under which the only other social metric that has increased at that rate may not surprise you to find out that it's homeless people. And when I mean homeless people, of course, I mean mainly homeless men.
Their success really depends on navigating all these tricky non-tech challenges.
So this dive into Trinity Helix, it really underlines something, doesn't it? That sometimes the biggest disruption isn't a brand new AI model, but cleverly structuring and applying existing knowledge. It changes the whole system.
Exactly. And it shines a light on the huge potential for tech to tackle things like access to justice, while also finding potentially massive public savings, potential win-win if they can navigate those hurdles.
Definitely food for thought. So Thinking beyond this specific case, what really stands out to you about how technology might fundamentally reshape public services in the next few years? Something for you all to chew on until next time.
So let's just remind you, this is an agentic, multi-stage reasoning AI. The deep research, the most advanced AI, available to the individual. The reason why is because they'll go out and not out beyond their model, and they'll go to a place like .gov. You can see here, where solicitors, all these help groups, and we can see the thought process here. And this is what makes a deep research so special. Check this out. So I'm not quite there yet, because what I need is a way to automate the court bundle, and then I need a meshing system. And once I've got a meshing system and I can automate the court bundle, then I'm really in business. So let's just see what happens on that front. Thank you very much.